I created this video consisting of moves you can use when you're out flying with the Mini 2. I'm not going to go through each and every move, but I'll go through the factors that'll change the atmosphere and feeling of your content. Depending on how you fly, will change the story of your shot. This video contains 3 parts. Part 1 is adding variety to your shots. Part 2 is common types of drone shots. And part 3 is a collection of drone shots where I show you how to perform each one of these moves on my controller. Between these 3 parts, you can perform numerous moves in your videos. Before I begin with part 1, there's 2 things I'd like you to know. The first thing is, if you want to learn about camera settings to get better looking footage, I'll put the beginner's guide in the description below, and you can also find it at the end of this video. The next thing is that your story is going to decide how you fly. You really want to think about your scene or your subject and then choose a drone shot that'll tell the story. It's better to think story first and then filming it after, instead of just taking off and deciding what type of drone shot you want to use after. Let's start with part 1, beginning with speed. You have the options of Cinesmooth, normal, and sport mode. Something slow will appear more cinematic in Cinesmooth mode, while faster speeds in sport mode will add energy to your footage, and normal mode sits somewhere in the middle. If you want to increase the energy, you're gonna put it in sport mode to capture the shots with lots of movement. If you want to shoot something grand and epic, you want to shoot at a slow speed. In between these 3 speeds, you can gently push the sticks so you're not adding full force, which controls how fast the Mini 2 moves. Mostly, I put it in Cinesmooth mode and push the sticks half the way that they can go and get even slower shots. So you're going to have to practice these controls. Now let's talk about height. How high you fly is going to decide how your footage looks. You can tilt the gimbal up 20 degrees, which gives you more flexibility with how you can fly your drone. You can fly lower than your subject and point it up, be at eye level and above eye level, and go higher and point the gimbal down, and also be completely above your subject or scene. The height makes a difference in how your shot is gonna look. Next up is distance. How close or far away from your scene or subject you fly adds variety to your shots. The closer you are to your subject, your audience will be focused on that subject, whereas if you're far away and your subject is mini or tiny, the focus is the scene in the distance. Play around with this to add detailed or wide shots depending on what you want. Next is gimbal movement. You don't have to always have your gimbal pointed straight when you can point it up or down, or even straight down. This is a major factor in adding variety to your shots by adjusting the gimbal and moving up or down or away or closer from your subject, which changes how the shot feels. These are 4 factors you want to think about when you go out filming, because just combining these will help you achieve 20 to 30 shots, as each one creates a different style of movement. Let's get into part 2, talking about different kinds of drone shots, but these aren't the only ones, but these are commonly used. The intro shot. This is a technique to introduce or establish a scene. This helps the audience see the bigger or wider view of your scene, which can be used to introduce where you're at in the scene. Drones are perfect in filming these shots, as you can fly them high in the sky and far away to show everything in the distance. Reveal shot. This is where you fly to focus on one part of the scene of a subject and then reveal something different. For example, coming from behind and above the tree to reveal the highway and sunset. This is an awesome storytelling technique to build suspense or to reveal something new in your scene, which could be a transition. This idea to transition focuses from one subject or scene to another. Let's talk about some reveal shots. One is where the view is hidden and you fly in the direction to reveal what's hidden, and another one is to be close to the subject, which is filling the frame, and then pull out to reveal where the subject is. Basically like the rocket quick shot. Another reveal is to have the subject come into your empty frame, and this one is classic, the tilt reveal, where you point the gimbal down and pitch it upwards to reveal the shot, which can also be done backwards, where you point the gimbal up to the sky and then tilt it down to reveal your scene or subject. Next up is tracking shots. This is where you have a subject in the frame and following the subject. You have to figure out the speed of the subject, as you can follow it fast and it's out of the frame, or you can move slower and follow while the subject moves out of the frame. You can decide the type of variation you want, where the subject is moving faster or if it's moving slower, and you fly past the subject. Fly through shots. This is where you fly through objects or past objects close. You have to be careful with these shots to avoid any accidents. Flying through or close to objects adds a different type of feeling than it would if you were to fly above it. If you're a beginner, I recommend you don't start with these type of shots before you have practiced enough to build confidence. Now we're in part 3 of the video, which is a collection of drone shots. I've compiled various types of drone shots and divided them into 3 parts. The first is the beginner, which requires only 1 move, and the more intermediate level, which requires 2 moves, and the advanced level, which requires 3 or 4 moves. You should practice 1 and 2 directional moves before you start getting into 3 and 4. Flying a drone is a skill, and you want to make sure that your movements are smooth and not jerky. I'm using the standard configuration for the controller, which comes straight out of the box, which is you push the right stick up to go forward, right to move right, left to move left, and down to move backward. And on the left stick, I push up to go higher, push down to get lower, and rotate right when I push it toward the right, and rotate left when I push it toward the left. So you want to keep this in mind in case you have a different configuration for your controller. Let's start with the beginner shots. The still shot. Fly into position and adjust the gimbal tilt angle and just leave it there to hover, capturing the scene or a subject moving through the scene. Pretty simple and easy. Reverse. Point the right stick down to fly backward. Make sure that there's a clear path behind so there's nothing in the way. Slide shot. Push right or left on the right stick and the drone will fly right or left. Again, make sure that the path is clear of objects. Push in. Push the right stick up to move forward and capture the scene. Ascending shot. Push the left stick up to raise the drone, and you can adjust the gimbal tilt accordingly, as I mentioned earlier, to change the style of the shot. Descending shot. Push the left stick down so the drone descends. It's a good idea to frame a good shot before you land, so you can get one more before landing. Rotation shot. Push the left stick left or right so the drone spins. Next up, 2 direction shots, where you'll push one stick and move in 2 directions or both sticks simultaneously. The forward backward slide. Pushing the sticks in a slant to the top right or left or bottom left or right corners, and the drone will move closer or farther and sideways. Ascend and forward. Push both sticks upwards at the same time and the drone will move high and forward. Ascend or descend plus rotation. Push the left stick up or down and to the side in a slant to go high or low and rotate. The ascend plus reverse. Push the left stick up and the right stick down so the drone moves up and backwards, kind of like a droney. It's a nice reveal for your scene where you focus on a subject and pull back to show the bigger picture. Ascend plus gimbal tilt. Push the right stick up and tilt the gimbal down. It's a nice change in perspective. Now you can do the same in reverse where you descend and tilt the gimbal up. Orbit. Classic drone shot and one of my favorites. You focus on a subject in the center and orbit around it. Push the joysticks in towards each other or away from each other. You can do it high and slow or low and fast. Play with the speeds and distance for different styles of orbits. Forward plus gimbal tilt. Push the right stick up and tilt the gimbal down. You focus on something you're flying over, and it's a cool shot to draw attention to something you're flying over. Now you can do the same when you fly in reverse and tilt the gimbal up. Now let's get into the advanced or pro section, which requires a combination of 3 or 4 movements to create your shot. The reverse plus slide rotation. Push the right stick to the bottom left or right and the right stick to the right. Add gimbal tilt for more motion. Forward plus slide rotation. Push the right stick to the top left or right and the left stick to the left. Add a gimbal tilt for more motion. Orbit plus gimbal tilt. Push the right and left sticks towards or away from each other and add a gimbal tilt to reveal your scene. Descent plus orbit. Push the left stick down to the left or right and the right stick to the left or right to orbit and descend. Ascent rotation plus forward slide. Push both the stick upwards toward the corners and you can do the same in reverse and add a gimbal rotation. Forward descend plus gimbal tilt. Push the right stick up and the left stick down and tilt the gimbal up to change the horizon in your shot. Most of these drone shots in the advanced part will require practice as they're difficult to achieve, but you can get some awesome looking shots. From the beginning of this video to whatever I've talked to about now, you can use tons of combinations to use in your videos. The key is to plan your story and decide which moves will tell best your story before you fly. I strongly suggest you watch this video next, which is a beginner's guide on how to get cinematic footage. I'll see you there.